Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Mishler, and I am a senior at Indiana University, Bloomington. I am studying physics and intelligent systems engineering. I am also on staff with the university. The university recently released student commitment forms that all students will be expected to sign. In some emails I have received, the university has revealed that they are in search of effective measures of enforcing this code of conduct. I believe that this code of conduct is worthy of reprehension on multiple fronts, and because of this, I will not be signing it. This video contains an open letter to the university regarding my concerns and reasons for my decision, followed by a call to action for my fellow students. Dear Indiana University, I received your student commitment form on Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. I have read it in full and am in protest of many of the actions you are choosing to take. You have had similar forms hit my inbox in the past. I've reached out to you, asking for an open forum to discuss why I think that what you are attempting is inappropriate. But I have not received a response to my email, and you seem to have doubled down on your procedures. Before I proceed to supply arguments against your proposed policies, I must dispel a few short-sighted notions that you may already have about me. I'm not a denier of COVID. I do not believe that the issue of public health should be ignored by the public. I do not believe that COVID is just the flu. In fact, I think it is evident that COVID is worse than the flu. Here's what I do believe. The university has an obligation to encourage good health. Decisions about what people should do should be extensively backed by science before policy is enacted. As a student at IU trying to live by the core principles of IU, I feel an obligation to speak out against this injustice. I think that a major component of your commitment to these policies is your desire to shirk liability for transmissions on the campus. I understand your fear, but I think that these policies are unreasonable because they are driven by that fear. The main policy that I take issue with is the forced compliance to downloading a contact tracing app. The signing of the agreement preemptively offers my consent to download any app if one is required by IU. I find this to be appalling on multiple levels. For one, I know that IU takes consent very seriously, and the fact that the university is threatening students with reduced campus access for not signing the agreement has coercion written all over it. But the main issue I take is that I am unwilling to allow the university to have such pronounced control over my personal life. This clause is to be applied if I am determined to be positive or presumed positive for COVID-19. Then, suddenly, I must download an app on my phone and have my location tracked as the university decides for me where I am and am not allowed to travel. I must share with public health officials all the people I have associated with in the past 14 days. To anyone willing to disclose intimate data about your personal life to a large institution, I respect your motives. However, I could not allow myself to do that. I question what the university will do with this precedent. Will my affairs suddenly become the business of the university? And what will they do with the data of my location? How can I be sure that it will be used just for my health? No degree of "it's for your own good" can convince me to surrender this data so easily. To boot, it's not even that clear to me how much this whole app is going to help you. He who is willing to sacrifice a little liberty for a little safety deserves neither and will lose both. Benjamin Franklin. I also find your mask policy to be clumsy and superfluous. The university will require all students, staff, and faculty to wear a mask indoors at all times, with very limited exceptions, and even outdoors sometimes. Though many claim that these policies are backed by science, I have done my due diligence researching this and failed to come to the same conclusion. All of the studies that do seem to support the pro-mask conclusion are observational experiments that occurred after the pandemic hit, while all the proper controlled experiments done without ideological pressure to arrive at a specific conclusion establish that masks do either little or nothing to stop the spread of a virus. I encourage all who are interested to do a similar personal dive into this research and to discuss the validity of your conclusions with others. I also find that even though your mask policy is allegedly scientifically based, you seem to not be following the evidence yourselves. IU will be providing 2 cloth masks to its students to ease them into this policy. Cloth. Not N95, cloth. We know that mask use is not the end-all be-all of stopping the transmission of a disease, but to even be effective with this, we'd have to own several masks, washing them throughout the week just to avoid it being the equivalent of spitting on a rag and then tying it back right in front of your nose. At that point, it might even be more sanitary to not wear a mask at all. I see no difference between this move and the notion that all students be required to walk the campus armed because some scientific study showed that mass shooters are less effective against armed populations. I simply find it unacceptable how drastically IU is seeking to change its campus with such ill-founded and half-baked policy. And even though you claim it's for my health, I just don't see where you're coming from. I could see the encouragement of wearing masks being very reasonable, but the requirement? I can't allow such unbacked major changes to go unprotested, especially considering that I had no say in this decision. As a student at IU, I would be remiss to comply. These complaints I raise against your policies are not out of some desire to have more leeway to misbehave. What happens when we lose the right to congregate as we please and go where we please without the watchful eye of a large institution? Suddenly, we lose the ability to exchange ideas, to protest these very tyrannies that invited themselves into our world under the mystical cover of fear. Though this may not have started about my health, I'm afraid it is not about my health anymore. This is about my freedom. It is even written at the end of your agreement, bolded, expectations are subject to change. You are moving us apart now with baby steps, pouncing on us in the middle of the summer, alone and vulnerable, when we are not together with our peers to share our thoughts on your policies. You may not be intentionally setting up the ideal sequence of events to silence opposition from your students, but this is exactly what you are accomplishing, and this is why I will not be signing your student commitment agreement. But I don't want to establish myself as your enemy. I don't want things to end here. I want there to be a discussion, an open forum, where your students can share their thoughts on your policies. Indiana University, I'm talking to you. McRobbie, Roble, Murphy. I want you to respond to me thoroughly, and I want to understand your perspective as well. And I want to come to a common agreement where all of us are satisfied, or at least equally dissatisfied. My mind is open to being changed. And to you who believe that I am some ignorant kid, some bigot with a problem with authority, I challenge you. If you believe that I am so far in the wrong, why don't you have a discussion with me? I want to hear you. I want to take you seriously. For if your opinions are so right and so backed by science, morals, ethics, then I imagine you will have no trouble explaining them to a truth-seeking Hoosier like myself. Wishing you the best, Daniel. My fellow students, if you too find this agreement to be an injustice, then join me. Each person that chooses not to sign this agreement is a person who sends a message to the university. And unfortunately, each person that chooses to sign it also sends a message. If you have something to say, don't be afraid to say it because it is unpopular. Share this message. Share your message. I record this on Independence Day, where 244 years ago, some of our founding fathers stood up against tyranny for what they believed in, even though they knew they were in for a fight. Here I am today, doing the same thing because of what they did, so that in 244 more years, people can do the same thing. Even though I know the university may take unprecedented disciplinary action against me for speaking out against them, and that the platforms I use to share this message may silence me and punish me for speaking against the grain of the status quo. But I am doing this because I feel called to do the right thing, even though it's unpopular. I'm not doing this because I want to spread COVID-19. I'm doing this because I want to spread bravery. I encourage you to do the same.